Hi everybody, welcome to the Marvel Rivals tier list. Before I get into the tier list, I'm going to be breaking down a lot of things and a lot of them. So if you enjoy this type of content, I want you to know that I have a dedicated Marvel Rivals YouTube channel now that I'll be posting over there. I'm still going to post some Marvel Rivals on this channel as well. But if you want some more educational content from Marvel Rivals and my opinion and guides and things like that, do go check out that channel over here. With that being said, let's get started with the tier list. Coming up first is everybody's favorite, Adam Warlock. Adam Warlock is actually an A tier support. He has a lot of power in his kit when you know what you're doing. His shift with the ability to divide damage across the team and things like that. The E healing, the AoE healing he gives is so fantastic. Not to mention that his left and right clicks, his primary and alternate fires, he's basically Zenyatta. Like literally, he's Zenyatta in disguise with Mercy's Res ultimate. He has a great sustainability to keep fights going, and a lot of people just sleep on him. Like, I mean, honestly, I would still argue support is the strongest role in the game. People just don't actually fully understand how to push these characters. But for context purposes, I've been playing the game non-stop solo queue, and then I had 6 hours of coordinated scrims yesterday. And of course, it was no surprise that the strongest role in the game was support. So I will be putting a little bit more emphasis on support. So Adam Warlock, AT pick, great character, good damage, really good sustainability, healing, amazing ultimate when you know what you're doing. But he definitely gets caught off guard. I wouldn't necessarily put him in S tier in my personal opinion, but he's definitely an A tier pick, not bad. And none of the characters outside of maybe one or two are actually bad, but we'll get to them when we get there. Black Panther as well. Honestly, he's a bit difficult because in certain scenarios he's A, in other scenarios he's S. If you're playing against like teams that are slow, that don't have good coordination, that don't know what they're doing, Black Panther skyrockets to an S tier pick because he can like just completely annihilate a backline and destroy. Like he's a fantastic duelist. Like he's a fantastic duelist, but against like higher healing compositions and against teams that understand how to play well and everything, Black Panther does kind of drop off from the S tier and comes down to A tier. He can definitely take those fights and play against them, but he typically doesn't enjoy it. So to be fair, like even though Black Panther is one of my dedicated mains, I will say that like at best he's an A tier pick. I wouldn't necessarily call him S tier just yet. His ultimate is great, but mostly just benefits him. I think maybe if the ult did a little bit more damage or came up a little bit more frequently, maybe then I would put Black Panther in S tier. But in my opinion, he's an A tier pick. He's very good. Again, I know some people are gonna watch this and think just because I don't put something in S or God tier, like they're not good. No, don't misunderstand. Anything that is B, A, S or God tier is very good. It's just relative to one another as heroes as well, right? Just relative to one another as heroes as well. Coming over the Doctor Strange, Doctor Strange is an A tier tank as well, or honestly, in some cases, if you have Hulk with you, an S tier tank. He has great playmaking potential. He can draw out fights. He's very good at holding down a choke. He's very good at dealing with different types of squishy characters as well. And he's just a very good pick. I don't really have much to say. He has a great playmaking potential on his ultimate as well. He's actually my favorite tank to play. Very simplistic, but has a very good high skill ceiling with the way you can interact with everything else on the map. So Doctor Strange, A tier pick in my opinion. Very good. I don't know if I want to put him in S, maybe S with the team up, but honestly, I want to do the team ups in another video. So Doctor Strange, A tier pick, very good. Groot is immediately an S tier pick. So to anybody that actually understands how to play Groot and can even sometimes get the team up. Okay, I know I don't want to talk about the team ups way too much because that's a different tier list on its own, but Groot, even by himself, when the person that's playing Groot understands what they're doing, how to make use of the walls, the wall damage, how to create like zones to isolate people and everything. Oh my god. Not to mention that Groot can feel unkillable. Like I don't hate playing against any character in this game. But if there's one character that I actually hate playing against by far is Groot. Groot makes me feel like I'm playing against an Overwatch 2 tank, and that's one of the reasons I don't like him. But on my team, so as you guys know, my tank player, he's playmaker. He has been playing a lot of Groot as one of his mains, and he has figured out some crazy things to do with Groot. And not to mention when we were scrimming against other teams in a 6v6 environment, like they were also playing a lot of Groot. Like he's definitely a huge like sore thumb standout. But again, like the thing about Groot in solo queue is just because he's not like a A-list character, he's not like a popular character. A lot of people just don't pick him and don't realize how absurdly strong he is. But if you pick him up as a tank, like you will see just how insanely strong he can be at drawing out fights. He works really well with a lot of supports and complementing them. He's a great backline peeler as well. There's so much depth into Groot's kit that like it's insane. Like he looks so simple upon first glance, but when like the more you play and the more you realize, holy crap, you can do some crazy things. So Groot S tier pick, insane survivability, pretty decent damage, very good at setting up teammates for success, and amazing ultimate. It's like a big like root. He pulls everybody in. So Groot, very very good character. Hela, immediate S tier pick. I know a lot of people are gonna be surprised that I don't put her in God tier. But okay, like here's my blistering hot take. I don't think any DPS is in God tier, but we'll get to God tier when we get there. So Hela is fantastic. I know a lot of people were concerned about Hawkeye and Black Widow being the best snipers in the game, but one of the biggest problems in the alpha and beta test was Hela. Hela is hit scan, if I'm not mistaken, or extremely fast projectile to where it feels like hit scan, but Hela has no drop off. Hela can snipe you across the map. She has a really good kit, very good like playmaking, ultimate, really good omnidirectional mobility. That's something that Black Widow and Hawkeye do not have. So in my opinion, when it comes to like well, I would classify her as a sniper, me personally. When it comes to snipers, honestly, Hela is a monster. The problem is Hela it needs a lot of skill to be played because you need to be landing your shots. Characters in Marvel Rivals are extremely fast, but once you get the flow down with her and you're like hitting your headshots and everything, Hela is an unstoppable behemoth. Like I'm actually surprised that she wasn't nerfed even further. And maybe like I don't want to jump to like okay who needs to be nerfed or who needs to be like buffed just yet. But Hela is one of those standouts to me that's like okay maybe we need to look at her kit. Like I wouldn't jump the gun on it just yet, but maybe Hulk. Okay, so Hulk is actually much better now. Hulk is in a much better spot. Definitely, I would say that they helped this kid. They reworked like one of his abilities to stun and be a little bit more consistent, and he has a little bit more damage in his ultimate and in his primary now, if I'm not mistaken. It is a bit of it is a little bit tough to keep up with all the patch notes because they're a little bit of a mess here and there. Hulk is actually very decent right now. You have to understand your limits with playing Hulk and what you can and cannot do. The way I like to look at him is he just reminds me of Winston. He's an excellent dive tank that likes to get in, harass, get out, get in, and like he has infinite mobility on his dive. Like you can hold space, keep pressuring, and then get out. Hold space, keep pressuring, then get out. So Hulk in that regard is actually very very strong. So don't sleep on Hulk. I don't think he's B, C, or D tier anymore like he was, but I would say definitely he's an A tier tank. And Hulk plus Doctor Strange together are very strong. They have really good synergy in the way that their playstyles can work. Because Hulk can also just adjust his playstyle to being more brawl, but also he gives Doctor Strange the gamma, amplification, and he becomes a fantastic, like, more strong character. Speaking of characters that Hulk does buff as well, is Iron Man. Iron Man's a fantastic character, very good pump stopper, very good like team fight, like he like really good at harassing team fights. He's just really fantastic overall. Like Iron Man, and again, like again, I don't want to talk too much about team ups, but if you have the gamma amplification from Hulk, oh my god, Iron Man's insane. But even without that, Iron Man can be very strong. He's an excellent duelist. He's really good at breaking team comps to split apart and isolate people. And he's a really good, okay, I mentioned that he's a good duelist, but man, he's good at everything. Like his AoE damage is insane. His only weakness is the reason he's not going into S or even God tier is the fact that he gets shut down by hit scans like a good Hela, good Black Widow, etc. etc. Like they will just make your life a living hell. Even like a really good Iron Fist or Spider Man can sometimes like really catch you off guard or force you to play really slow. Even some of the supports can do that really really well. So Iron Man A tier pick, very strong, really good carry potential, especially in his ultimate, but definitely not in the S tier. Despite like I love playing Iron Man, but I can't lie. Like I have to be fair. Jeff. Okay, now this is gonna be a controversial take. I understand that Jeff is a massive pub stomper, but a lot of people don't know that outside of that, and other than one or two particular team up abilities for Jeff, Jeff is unironically a little bit like okay. He's not bad per se. Like he's not C D tier. He's like okay. Like when his ultimate comes online and you know what you're doing, and he skyrockets to like A or S tier. And I think they did buff him. Like one of the buffs that I disagree with for Jeff is I think they increased the speed of his swimming so he can get the setup to do his like ultimate faster. I don't like Jeff's ultimate at all because I think it's almost, at least from what we've experienced, it's almost a free guaranteed team fight win if the Jeff player knows what they're doing, and it's really not that hard to get the free setup because it's pretty much like Somber where he goes underground. He's so hard to see that he typically gets the free setup on you. So outside of that, like gameplay, like with like a very powerful ultimate, but very, very like neutral, like overall gameplay feel. like he's like okay, like there's better supports that you could be playing for the overall like sustain based compositions. It's okay, like he's okay. He's not like Adam Warlock level of strength, of how much impact you can bring to a team fight or the synergy with the rest of the characters and what you can and cannot enable. But just good, like you can play Jeff into pretty much any comp with anybody. Like he's a pretty flexible pick and he has a decent ultimate, if you know what you're doing. But if the enemy team knows how to punish you and isolate you, Jeff becomes like it is a little bit difficult to play Jeff. I was thinking about putting him in A tier, but honestly I don't think he's an A tier pick. Can this ad go away? All right, moving on to the next character, we have Loki. Now Loki is an A and sometimes an S tier pick, but to be fair, I will put him in A simply like when we get to S tier, we'll get there. Loki's damage is very decent. A lot. The biggest problem with Loki is I think he's by far the highest skill ceiling support, and he's very difficult to play. He's insane. Like it's crazy to me that Rivals created like one of the highest skill ceiling characters and put it in the support role. Because usually in games like these, they try to keep the support role relatively easy because it's gonna be one of the most like stressful roles to play. You're being harassed. You're trying to get dived. You also have to do healing. You have to do blah blah. But Loki's skill ceiling is so high that if you know what you're doing, you know how to constantly position your clones. You know how to guide your shots. You know how to just like you just understand like where and how to make him work, and then like copying any playmaking DPS or tank, and then making a big like play on the enemy team, or copying a support and then keeping your team up. Loki is so damn good. Like Loki is so damn good at that. However, I will say he's not like where he does fall off is his damage is a little bit weak, and if he gets dived or he gets like once you like take out his clones and the runes that he puts up, because the runes are really OP because it's kind of budget immortality field. The way the runes work is like they convert damage into healing. Now they're really easy to deal with. There's a like Iron Man is a fantastic character to play into Loki, and I mean honestly, Iron Man alone can shut down a lot of Loki's value as well. And that's not even considering the some of the other characters that can do that. But still, that doesn't take away Loki's power. I think he's still an A tier support. He's a very good character to play. It's just like if the enemy team is playing a little bit more dive, Loki becomes like he really doesn't like playing against dive. Because his only like proper mobility is his invis, and it's a small like mobility boost. He doesn't really like dash or like quickly get away. You do have your little teleports, but like you are going to be risking like massive cooldown usages on the clone if you only have one, and then the teleport. So it's like you have mobility, but it's still like, but diving Loki is like by the time you actually get the chance to either invis and get away safely or to set up a teleporter play to run away, like they isolate you and they completely like ultra fast delete you from the game. Another point that Loki loses is the fact that his damage might not necessarily be the best unless you have all three clones. Well, in this case, like the other two clones set up with you, so you're three, and then your true burst damage comes online. So in that regard, Loki is an 80, but by far, by no means is he a bad pick. Coming over to Luna Snow. Now, Luna Snow was a very strong pick in the alpha and the beta. But now with the way the game has changed, evolved, and the different hero synergies and everything like that, I think Luna's kind of fallen off on power. I was really close and even putting her in B tier, but I don't think she's that bad. I don't think she's on Jeff's level. Now, to be fair, Jeff's kit is a lot more simplistic and straightforward, which kind of holds back his like overall skill ceiling and potential in team fights. But Luna is still good. Like she does have really good damage as well. She also has really good healing. And her ultimate is like a transcendence, and you can convert that transcendence into a speed boost for your team as well. So she's good. She's a very simplistic, straightforward support. You can also like stun enemies out of your ultimates with your like right click freeze attack, which is really underrated because I was playing No Snow and I actually did to a Scarlet Witch like three times in a match to the point that the Scarlet Witch players started to slur at me. It was hilarious. So I really enjoy playing Luna Snow. But I would say she's 80. I don't think she's as strong as she was before. She's still very strong, but it's just like the way the game is evolving, other characters have taken over her. Now another 80 pick. Now I've been very confused on Magic. I unironically want to put Magic in S or sometimes even in God tier, but like when I started to play her, when we had a Magic specialist and when we were discussing it with the enemy Magic as well, Magic relies so much on her team to be engaging and following up. Like she's what I like the best way we were able to describe her by the end of the day was like Magic's entire role is that she's a tracer with a giant sword. I know Star Lord is basically Tracer, but like if you could make Tracer a melee character, like if you could give Tracer Dragon Blade, that's basically what Magic is. However, like the reason I'm gonna put her down to A tier, like over here, is gonna be like Magic just falls off hard if your team isn't pushing with you because she's so easy to isolate when you use up both teleports. You also have to be really careful with both teleports and how to use her. She has a very high skill ceiling. Her difficulty just betrays her because she's extremely difficult to play. But once you get going with her, my goodness, like you can take over games and you can be an unstoppable monster. So don't sleep in Magic. She's very difficult and very hard to play. But if you have a team, even just like one dive tank, or at least like one dive DPS, like running in with you, Mantis just completely. Sorry, not Mantis. Excuse me. I'm thinking a lot about Mantis because we're about to get there. But Magic does a very very good job of annihilating enemy frontline. She does lose to the usual culprits. She gets hard CC'd, she gets poked down. But once you, like I said, once you have that team, you're engaging together. Magic is very very fun to play, very very strong character once he's in the right area. Magneto, honestly, I don't have much to say about him. It's Zarya and Sigma's kit put together. He does have the unique mechanic where he's absorbing like damage in order to make his like I think even stronger. He has the synergy with Wanda as well, where he gets the team up. Okay, I'm not going to talk about team ups here. I'm not going to talk about team ups here. I keep forgetting. Overall, Magneto is an okay character. Like he's not like ultra strong. He's not like ultra weak. He's A tier. Like you can definitely make him work. He complements like Doctor Strange really well. You can play him with like Thor really well, Captain America. Like he's just very good in that regard. A lot of people also don't know this, but when no, actually, why do I think of Doctor Strange? But when Magneto is using his ultimate, he actually absorbs projectiles that are being shot in his direction, so his ult gets stronger and stronger. A lot of people don't know that, so his ultimate can be a huge surprise for people that like shoot in his direction, not realize that they've just turned his like death ball into like an easy team wipe. So Magneto, very good. Like not necessarily like B tier, I would say. He definitely still is very strong. But there's just stronger tanks and tanks that can do it's like some things what he does, but a little bit better. Though that doesn't mean you shouldn't play Magneto. He's a great tank to pick up regardless. Coming over to finally our first S tier support, and that is Mantis. People are sleeping on Mantis. Mantis has insane damage. Mantis has insane healing. You have to be a little bit careful with it, but if you understand how to keep the uptime going, then Mantis is a phenomenal support. She can feel so oppressive. Her ultimate is what I would now argue a better Luna Snow ult. Okay, maybe Luna Snow ult has the healing a little bit higher, but like by no means is her ult a joke. Her ult is a joke either. It's very very strong. Her sleep dart or her sleep spores are relatively easy to use, and when it's in the hand of a great Mantis player, so like Eevee, you guys know who Eevee is. Like when we were playing with her, she was our Mantis player, and man, she was sleeping people out of the sky. She was sleeping the tanks. It was like a guaranteed just win. Like it was just phenomenal to have a Mantis that like had this much impact in the game, and it was like it was unbelievable. It's like we just couldn't be stopped when we had the Mantis on our team. Like Mantis was a huge standout. I don't think she needs to be nerfed. I just think she's like her kit is just really fun. Like she just reminds me of like it just feels like she's the honor of this game. Where it's like, well, I think it's okay for Mantis to be strong. Okay, moving on over to Namur. Namur is one of the most underrated characters. I was saying this in the alpha and the both beta tests that I was in. That people, just because Namur is not popular, people don't realize how this is a monster of a DPS. This guy is a budget sniper. This guy has insane projectile size, and he's like Torbjorn on steroids. His ultimate is decent. Like I wish his ultimate was a little bit more flashy and the things that it did, but his neutral gameplay is so strong. People never see it coming. And when you have like the again, okay, again, I was about to go to the team ups, guys. I swear to God, somebody should do like a check on how many times I bring up team ups because I freaking love the team up mechanics, and I think that's what the devs really want to balance the game around. But like okay, just give me the pass. When you have the Luna Snow passive team up where he's basically like doing I think he does get it from Luna Snow where his attacks are a little bit more empowered with ice. Unless I'm thinking of somebody else, then my bad. But he feels so oppressive. Like I play him a lot, and people are never ready for him. Like once you have the two Krakens, mini baby Krakens set up, and you throw the empowered spear, and then the Krakens get berserk mode. Oh my god, like you are unstoppable. He's such a very easy character to play as well. In my personal opinion, maybe he needs to be nerfed. Maybe he needs to be nerfed. Like again, I've not talked about any of the characters needing nerfs just yet. But I think maybe Neymar is like one of those like sleeper picks that just because he's not popular, people don't realize his full potential just yet. Moving on over, we got Penny Parker. Okay, I hate to say this, I really love this character. I really love what they're trying to do. This is by far the most unique tank design I've ever seen in a video game, and I've played a lot of hero shooters, MOBAs, and everything. I think what they are trying to do with Penny is interesting. They did buff her, they reworked her primary fire, but I hate to say it, like I hate to say it, like she needs a lot of help. I think she needs a buff. I think maybe she needs a full kit rework. She needs a little bit more going on. She's very like, okay, if you're defending a map with her, if you have another tank who's like a frontliner, let's say like Doctor Strange or Thor or Magneto, then you can play her as like a defensive tank. Like she's really good at defending, but attacking she has no tool. So if you're defending with her, she goes to like C or B tier. If you know what you're doing with the mine setups and everything, then it's like actually very like she can kind of like come to C and B. But like in general, in King of the Hill maps and things like this, she's terrible. Like in other scenarios as well, she just feels really really bad. Especially like when you like, so in solo queue it's like, okay, maybe solo queue you can make her work to where her impact feels like a B tier pick, but in coordinated environments she just falls off so hard. I'm really interested in seeing in her in like pro play and tournament play in the near future, because I think it's going to expose like Penny as the big standout that she needs a lot of help. I really like her. I really want to play her more, but my goodness, you get mowed down, you get poked down, dived. She doesn't have enough answers. I don't know what you do to really help her out, but she to me was like the standout. Like, oh god, this character needs help. Like in the alpha, in the beta, and now again, I still think she needs a lot of help. Moving on over to Punisher. So I think Punisher is actually a B tier character. He's really, really strong in the right scenarios. He's very good at like shredding tanks. Like if you want a character who's good at just completely annihilating tanks or tank based comps, like usually Groot based comps, we found one of the solutions was to actually play other than Moon Knight, which we will get to, was to actually play like Punisher as a complementary DPS, and he's very good. Like he doesn't necessarily have like the huge overall flashy impact like the A tier DPS characters. But he's very good. Like he's not bad. Like I said, guys, like B is not bad. It's just like, relatively to the people in A tier, you kind of are not like, you're not on their level, but you can still like do a lot. Like when his ultimate comes online, dude, he goes to like S tier. I'm not gonna lie. Like Punisher's ultimate is one of the most threatening ultimates in the game. Do not underestimate that thing. Like once it's online, holy crap, LOS that shit, right? So moving on to Rocket. Rocket, I feel like is sadly one of those characters that was very good in alpha and beta, but now with the new supports and some of the changes to the game and how things are being played, I don't think Rocket is necessarily bad per se. I think like if you're particularly wanting to play Rocket to enable some of the passives, so if you're playing with like the Winter Soldier, Bucky, and you're playing with Groot, then Rocket becomes a really good A tier support pick. But like individually, he's a B tier support. Like individually, he really doesn't bring much to the table. Yes, his res beacon and the armor packs are nice, but it's just not enough. Like it's just not enough. Like he's okay. Like he's like, he's not bad, not good. He's like okay. Same like the characters in here, like it's like you can play them, but it's like you could be doing more on other characters. So again, this is just subjective to my opinion. I'd be more than happy to hear your guys' experience down below. Scarlet Witch. Scarlet Witch as well, honestly, B tier character. She is a fantastic pub stomper. I'm seeing all the funny memes and clips and everything of people thinking Scarlet Witch is like Hitler for some reason. One of the biggest surprises to people is that when she uses her ultimate, the 3 hour long, charge up time before she explodes, people don't know that you can actually kill and CC Wanda out of that ultimate. So do keep that in mind. Like I understand she's a pop stomper. I understand she's Moira DPS mode, but she is very, very easy to deal with. I will say one thing. In our experience in playing scrims, we realized that Wanda is a really good answer to flankers in the game. So if enemies playing like Black Panther, Spider-Man, Wanda does a very good job of zoning them out and just controlling them in general. I'm gonna talk about this in a future video on the Rivals channel. So again, if you've not checked out the Rivals channel, go check it out. AbbyAZK is the name of the channel. Moving over to Spider-Man. Spider-Man is an S tier DPS pick, but one of the hardest DPS to make work. Now, to be fair, he kind of falls into the same problem that Black Panther does, but I will say that Black Panther relies too much on his Panther markings, which is why it brings him down to A tier. But Spider-Man does have better uptime compared to Panther. Of course, he relies on his own like web markings and everything, but you can still do decent damage. You have good follow up. You have great movement and escapability. Panther kind of drops off in that regard because Panther and Spider-Man are almost like identical to one another in the role that they're trying to fill. It's just Genji 1 and Genji 2, honestly. But Spider-Man's carry potential is really well. You can spawn trap. You can spot trap really, really well with Spider-Man as well. The ultimate is basically a glorified Reaper ultimate that if nobody dies, they get CC'd and held in place. So Spider-Man, very high skill setting, very tough character to play. But once you learn his combos, once you understand the flow and the gameplay, like he's very good. Only problem is there's some cases where you have to really slow down with Spider-Man. You have to really slow down with him. And that's the part where he begins to really suck. And honestly, if you feel like the game has slowed down, there's no window for you to enter, and it's just like your team needs more help in the front line, just swap off the character, guys. Please don't ego the Spider-Man pick. It is not gonna work in that scenario. Trust me. I've tried in scrims, I tried in solo queue, and I started to realize that okay, I think I need to swap and go for Iron Man or Namor, and help with like frontline battles a little bit more, because Peter, like, he really needs, help with the engage, so like he doesn't take attention, and he's not good if like sustainability like is high. So that's where he begins to drop off, or if the enemy team is actually peeling. So that is something to kind of keep in mind as well. Moving on over to the next Peter on our list, it is Star-Lord. Now Star-Lord comes over to the A tier pick as well. He's so funny enough, it's kind of crazy that I'm gonna be saying this, that a Tracer-esque character is an S tier. I will say in beta and alpha he was an S tier pick, but in the current version of the game, I will say there's more than enough things that kind of keep him in check. Some of the buffs to the other characters as well have made them a lot more stronger. Star-Lord, maybe in the right hands and in the right scenarios, can go up to S tier, or sometimes possibly even God tier, where he's uncontested. But I would argue there's more than enough things in the game that actually shut him down. Like, I think Adam Warlock's existence alone hurt the potential for Star-Lord to really take over games. His ultimate is still very, very good. But like it's just like Tracer, where you're a little bit like reliant on your team coming in and getting out. And yeah, like honestly, like Star-Lord's not bad. He has great burst damage. He's just like, he's literally Tracer with jetpack boosters, and Soldier 76's ultimate. I don't think he's bad. I think he's fine. He's an A tier. Like, he's not a bad pick by any means. He's a great character. If you want to one trick him on DPS, feel free. He's not a bad character. Funnily enough, he's one of the few DPS characters you can play into any type of comp. So when you're playing dive or poke or brawl, Star-Lord is always good to have. Never a bad character to have on your team. But very high, like decently high skill ceiling. I will say that. Just like Tracer, high skill ceiling, does take some time to understand how to survive on him, because a lot of people just like hover around with him and don't utilize his blinks, or his like shift, his jetpacks to stay alive, which allows them to get caught very easily. Also, Spider-Man shits on him for free. I will say that. Like, Spider-Man and Black Panther, if you're bad at your movement, will end your life way before you can do anything. Moving over to Storm. Storm is a bit of an awkward pick. I don't like alpha beta. I don't think Storm was that bad. I think now that the game is evolving, I think she's a B tier pick. I think my problem with Storm is she's a great poke character, right? Her duel potential is okay, and she's really good at enabling her team. Like, that's the thing. Like, it's funny because unironically, I wish Storm was a support. Like, she was like a DPS based support. I really wish she was that, because she would be a very good like A or S tier support. But as a damage dealer, like, anything that she does or what she's trying to bring to the table, Iron Man does it just miles better. Like, that's kind of like my little problem, is that Iron Man does it better. That doesn't mean that Storm isn't good. It just means like Iron Man brings a little bit more pressure points. Now, one thing that Storm does have that Iron Man doesn't is she's really good. If you're stuck in a poking phase, her poke potential is very good, because you're also giving your team speed and damage boost, right? So I will say that she excels over there. But I will say overall, like, her ultimate's amazing. Her ultimate's great. Her ultimate is like an S tier ultimate. But I will say that I don't personally think, like, from an overall POV, that she's an A tier pick. I think she's a great character. You can definitely play her. You can even one trick her. But again, it's like, comparatively to everybody else and their potential, like, we are looking at like the total potential of characters, and assuming in environment people know how to play them. That's what I always go by in my tier list, right? So Storm, she's okay, B tier pick, very good, like, very good. Like, she can pump Storm games for free, because people like just suck at dealing with her sometimes, like, aim and things like that. But again, another one of her weaknesses is the fact that hit scan snipers can just take her out for free. Moving over to our first God tier pick. And this is a character that I said in the beta people don't know how to play, and they're still proving my point that they do not understand how to play. Thor is, in my opinion, the highest carry potential character across the entire game, across all roles. Thor has insane damage, insane survivability, insane sustainability with supports, insane frontline presence, insane attention taking, insane follow up, great CC, and insane playmaking ultimate. I just don't understand. Like, I feel like I need to make a proper, like, a new revised in-depth guide on how to just solo carry on Thor, because people don't get it, and I'm surprised by that people don't get how to like just completely annihilate games with Thor. Because it's a little bit weird at first when you kind of read his descriptions, but then it starts to click in your head and you're like, oh, this is really good. Also, one quick advice before like I do make the guide: for the love of God, do not use his right clicks. His right clicks are useless. Like, it actually hurts your overall kit potential. I feel like that's what a lot of people try to do, is like they throw their hammer, they waste all the Thor force, and then they're sitting there like, oh, I don't like really do anything now. So, like, don't use your hammer throws unless you absolutely need to, maybe like during the cleanup phase. But like, I will get to Thor in the future. Please do not sleep on Thor. I'm begging you. Thor is the standout. When I was playing solo queue, when we were playing in scrims, like, Thor was a massive standout. Like, it was insane. Now I played Thor, Playmaker played Thor, and the enemy team played Thor, and my goodness, like, this is the guy like in the game, and I'm happy that they did him justice. Thor is one of my favorite characters in general, and the fact that I can put him in the god tier makes me happy. I don't think he's gonna get nerfed, because first of all, they gave him 1 star difficulty, which is ridiculous, because I think he's actually the most complex tank in the game in the way he works and the way he enables other tanks. But we'll get to that in the future. So Thor, god tier pick, the first god tier pick in our tier list. Moving on over to Venom. Venom was actually an S tier pick in alpha in beta, but I kind of hate to say it, that I now believe he drops down to A tier in the current environment of the game. Like, but I feel like the role that's learning their role the fastest is the support role. And because healing is so easily accessible in this game, outside of like maybe 1 or 2 characters, like, it's very easy to keep people alive. And Venom's problem is that he doesn't necessarily have really good consistent damage. He's a great dive tank. He's the best dive tank in the game by far. But with the way the game is evolving, the way certain supports got buffed, like Jeff got a big survivability increase. Like, Venom was a great counter to Jeff, but now Jeff is, from what I understand, like even faster underwater or underground, which makes it harder to play Venom, and Venom really doesn't like it. Like, when he's engaging, if the supports that he's engaging, like, that support is being healed. Like, Venom is a great backline threat. His frontline presence is really weird. He doesn't like to duel other tanks unless he needs to, and he has teammates with him. He can take really good duels against other DPS. He's very good at that. But primarily, you are basically the Winston of this game, and you really want to be in the backline, more often than not. And you are praying that like you have a dive DPS, Star Lord, like Spider-Man, Black Panther, just in the backline with you. And then you can completely like destroy the backline, and you can just completely destroy the backline. But because of like how crazy high healing can be, and I would just say, like, if the supports are bad, Venom is an S to god tier pick. But relatively speaking, again, I'm assuming everybody has a general idea of how to play their characters and how to play the game in general. Sadly, I will say Venom kind of falls into A tier. And like, one of the characters that really hurts him is the new support. And anybody, like, I think newly buffed up Mantis. I don't know if Mantis did get buffed or not, but she does feel much stronger now. Mantis and Adam Warlock can make, especially Adam Warlock, can make Venom's life a living hell, because like Adam's shift and his AoE healing just completely counters Venom's engage based AoE kit. So that's like something to keep an eye out. Doesn't mean that he's a bad tank. It just means like, he's a very good tank, but like if the enemy team is too grouped up and the healers are actually good, well, you're gonna have a tough time. It's time to swap to Thor, buddy. Like, it's time to just take the brawl base comp. Captain America. Now, Captain America is a very weird one. In some cases, he's D, C, B. In other cases, he goes A, S, and dare I even say God tier. He is the most difficult character to find a spot for. So I'm going to put him in B tier. Now, if you've been watching other content creators, I think Flats is the one who's been trying to play Captain America the most. My best friend, Playmaker, he's a Reinhardt main at heart, and he's a big Cap fan. He's been playing Cap a lot. And the thing is Captain America's, and I played Cap as well. Captain America's biggest problem is that he's lacking damage. He's a great bullet sponge, but like, it's not that fun to play when you cannot make plays. He's got a bit of dive in his kit. It's weird because he's kind of a dive brawl hybrid tank, but he's just kind of meant to waste time. Again, I know I don't want to talk about team ups at this point. I've been talking about team ups everywhere. He has a decent team up with Thor, where Thor gives him a new ability, but even that thing doesn't do any damage that means anything. So, in my personal opinion, please buff Captain America. Like, I don't know. I think I'm being generous with B. I want to put him in C. Like, I don't know. Like, Cap's a weird one. Like, he's a great bullet sponge. He's great at staying alive, great at doing all of that, and very good when he has Thor. Like, if he has Thor, these two, in my opinion, Cap and Thor, are going to be the Ryan and Zarya of this game, right? But without Thor, he feels so weird. Like without Thor, he feels so weird. So I'm sorry, but like Cap maybe down to B or C. Like C for Captain America tier, and then D is for Penny. Like I think Cap needs help, and he only needs help in the damage department. Like just buff his damage a little bit, and he's a B A tier pick. So I don't know. I don't know. He's a great bullet sponge, and okay, like off of that, I'll just put him in B. Like he is really good at absorbing damage, maybe even better than Magneto. So just for that alone, I'll put him in B tier. He's definitely not like Penny Parker tier. Alright, so moving on over is our next potential S tier pick, Winter Soldier Bucky Barnes. Now again, okay, you know what? At this point, I've been talking about team ups so much. The team up with Rocket Raccoon makes him have infinite ammo. He is such a threat once that comes online. Not to mention, overall, even without the infinite ammo, by himself, Bucky is a fantastic DPS. Like, I would say that he's a little bit harder to learn from the perspective that you have to understand how his kit is trying to work, but his carry potential is insane. I was very close to putting Bucky in God tier, but I don't think he's there just yet. I think he loses really easily to certain things. I don't think any DPS is in God tier, but Bucky is very very strong, really good like dual ability. He basically has like what I love about Bucky's character is if you could turn Roadhog into a proper DPS, this is what it looks like. Because he hooks people and brings them in. So even that is really good for helping secure kills, especially in like a brawl based form. We had a lot of good time. I was actually the Winter Soldier player for our team, and I was just pulling people in towards our Thor for him to delete. It was hilarious. It was really fun. So, very good character, has a high skill ceiling, and definitely very high carry potential on his ultimate. Very high carry potential on his ultimate. Can be a little bit difficult to use in certain scenarios and can easily be shut down by a certain support in the game. But we'll get to them when the time comes. Moving on over to Moon Knight. Moon Knight is a massive sleeper pick. A lot of people don't understand. Moon Knight is the anti-tank character. Like, if the enemy team is playing multi-tank, once you set up the Moon Knight ankhs on the floor, or even without that setup and they're just grouped up constantly, the constant boomerang AoE damage, the way you build your ult so quickly, the way you have so much online pressure, Moon Knight should be a character that should be in everybody's hero pool. Moon Knight's carry potential is insane. He's also really good at dueling other characters. Just he has great mobility, great survivability, fantastic DPS. I don't have anything else much to say about him. It's funny because with the avatar of death-based characters in Overwatch and even in Marvel Rivals, in this case Reaper and Moon Knight, they're just like great anti-tank based characters. But in this case, like the boomerang effect to do AoE damage into people grouped up together, that is so clever to make sure goats based comps don't happen. And there's also another character that can, or two other characters that do that, but we'll get to them when the time comes. Psylocke. Psylocke is an A tier pick. I don't think Psylocke is ultra strong. I don't think she's ultra weak either. In the right hands, you can have a great impact in the game. Her ultimate is okay. You pretty much only want to use it on 2 to 3 characters at once. And that's fine. The problem with like Psylocke is once you're playing against those high sustain based comps, supports know what they're doing. She drops off really hard, but you can still make things work. She's great follow up. She's a little bit of a weaker Black Panther sometimes in the way that her kit functions, but she has something that Black Panther doesn't, and that's like decent poke ability. Her poke isn't that good either, but it's like it's okay. If anything, unironically, I actually think maybe just buff her left click a little bit. Either that or buff up her right click just a little bit, because sometimes against like the high healing, it just feels impossible to get a kill on Psylocke, and at that point, it feels like you're throwing. So other than that, she's a great character, really good duelist against pretty much everyone on the roster if you know what you're doing. Very, very good character, very, very good A tier pick. Hawkeye, same with him, A tier pick. He's a great sniper, falls off against a lot of like powerful duelists and everything. He can get mowed down by tanks like Venom can make his life a living hell. If Groot is on the field and he has his walls online, it can be hard to find an angle. Honestly, I'm gonna bring Black Widow here up too. They're pretty much on the same level. They have really good carry potential once they can come online. But the problem with both of them is that they can get isolated so easily that at that point, if they get isolated, it's basically GG's, and both of them are useless. You need the comms to be really, really slow and really, really like um brawl based for them to come alive. Against the more dive based characters and comms, they both just erupt. Like unless those people playing are bad, they both erupt. But I will be fair to them. They can, to a limited extent, solo carry games. Black Widow can be a great follow up. Black Widow and Hawkeye can be a great follow up to the damage that your tanks are doing. So they're both really, really powerful, even from a more like supportive DPS point of view. But like I said, like they're really vulnerable to getting isolated and targeted. So that is just my opinion on the snipers. Like I think Namor and Hela as a quote unquote sniper, like they stand out much better to me um than Black Widow and Hawkeye. Now they do have their advantages as well as to what they bring over Hela and Namor. But that's just my personal opinion. By no means are they bad. They're both very strong. I just think Namor and Hela have a little bit better, like, not only utility, but abilities in general to deal with the threat on the field while still having that same, like, hardcore pressure that they bring onto the field. Wolverine. Wolverine's a really tough one because I think he's a B tier character. He's like a niche character that you have to have a really good understanding of how to play, and he basically fits that like role with Moon Knight where he's a tank shredder. Outside of like shredding tanks, which is pretty much his niche, he kind of falls apart against everybody else. I'm not gonna lie, like it is really difficult for him to take fights. Like we were playing against Wolverines, we like maybe he just has a really high skill ceiling when it does come to fighting squishies, and he might just be like a niche character in general. But I don't know, like it just felt like if you're not playing him into multi tank comps because his sustainability really helps keep him alive, like his own passives keep him alive against like other duelists. Like you just pick Iron Man and the guy's like he just can't do anything to you. Like obviously if you're in Iron Man's range, like Wolverine can dive him, take him down, and shred him apart. But any smart Iron Man, any good Bucky, this and that, like you could just like make Wolverine's life a living hell. So that's my opinion on Wolverine. Moving over to Squirrel Girl, I think Squirrel Girl is a great like maybe B tier to A tier pick. She really is the junker of this game. She has great damage, but sadly damage isn't always everything. Her utility in the big acorn she throws out, the stun that it does, that's also very nice. She's a great tank shredder. Actually, you know what? Actually, I'm gonna give Squirrel Girl a little bit more credit. I think she's an A tier pick as well. I think she's an A tier pick as well, but she's really bad in against dive. Like if dive is on the field or there's like air based characters shooting you down or characters that are on the flank constantly, Squirrel Girl just can't do anything. But against like the more brawler comp and more like okay, we're all just kind of playing on the floor and running at each other. She's a very good character. It's kind of like the same way Junker would be played. Okay, now moving over to the final picks, and I know I might tilt some people with this. I don't think Iron Fist is that strong. I'm gonna keep it real with you guys. I think Iron Fist is a huge pump stomper. I think Iron Fist is a huge pump stomper, but once you know that he's coming, like the problem is um he's so like visible in the way that he's gonna do something to you that you have more than enough time to just isolate him, shut him down. And funnily enough, if there's one character that does a good job of just completely shitting on Iron Fist is Penny. Penny's entire kit, the way she can set up traps and everything, and because Iron Fist typically wants to go for the backline, you can just create like a hell zone. And once Iron Fist gets into that range, he can be destroyed. So Iron Fist, him and Wanda to me are basically the same thing. Where it's like they're pub stomp characters. They have their niche where they're really good. I will say if the enemy is playing a multi tank based composition with multi supports and they don't necessarily like they only have like one DPS or three tanks and three supports, Iron Fist and Wolverine come alive over there very well. I will put them over here like these three. Like they have a particular niche. For example, like Wanda is very strong at shutting down flankers, and Wolverine and Iron Fist can be very strong at shutting down multi-tank, multi-support based compositions. So I do like the fact that if maybe that is what the devs intended, but they were like, if we ever get a goats based comp, we'll have these two and Moon Knight to keep them in check, and then like for solo queue, like for flankers and everything, they're like running around the map. Like we have Wanda to kind of like do her like chaos magic to kind of keep them in check. Not only Wanda, but now the second god tier character, Cloak and Dagger, are the most fun support I have ever played in a hero shooter. I think they're incredibly designed. They carry over one like poor aspect of Overwatch that I wish wasn't in the game, but there's so many things like that in this game, and so many things I've said that I'm like, okay, fine, whatever, that's fine. Cloak and Dagger's carry potential is insane. Dagger can be a fantastic solo healer once you get the flow of her kit down, spamming the E, positioning your right clicks really well. Cloak's his whole Suzu, like Cloak, when he uses his like alternate fire, he creates a Suzu field around you for 1 second. You can do so much with that if you time it right. Although I'd argue it's actually harder to use than Kiku Suzu because Kiku Suzu is one button press, while in Cloak and Dagger's case, it potentially can be a double button press. Cloak also pretty much has the same primary fire like Wanda, and he does a little bit more damage, I think, or around the same damage as Wanda does. So he like if you are like playing Wanda plus like Cloak and Dagger against like a flank based like enemy DPS line, you will have such an easy time shutting them down. Not to mention like Cloak's is on E, like the wall that he shoots out it blinds enemies, and it also poisons them in a way, doing damage over time. So they are so strong. Excuse me, because it's a couple, I believe. So those two have insane carry potential, and their ultimate, if you follow up on their ultimate, it's a guaranteed team fight win. Like, that pick doesn't look that threatening in first, but when, like, the realization that really hit us was that that field of cosmic left behind by Cloak and Dagger actually does like decent healing. And if you have people that like increase healing, I believe like Dagger increases healing, and I think like Jeff, like when he throws his bubbles into it, increases healing, and then you walk into those things, you are unkillable. Cloak and Dagger and Thor are the god tier characters. I wouldn't necessarily say any DPS goes in there. Maybe like if I'm being generous, Bucky is the god tier DPS. But outside of all of that, like this is my character tier list. So, Emily, with that being said, I would love to hear your comments, your perspectives down below. I know everybody's experience is going to be a little bit different, but again, one final context. I was playing the game nonstop for the past like 2 days, and then like near the end of yesterday, I played 6 hours of coordinated scrims, to put a lot of threes and stuff to test. So this is kind of like all that information put together for now. And when it comes to who needs buffs and nerfs, I will do a separate video on that on the other channel. So again, once more, third time, do check out the dedicated Marvel Rivals channel called AbbyAZK. With that being said, I'll see you in the next one.